Hello, everyone. It's Chira here from Career Essentials, where we give you honest career guidance and beyond. And today we have a special guest that is Mo. Hi, Mo.
Hi, Chira. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to be covering some valuable insights on LinkedIn. And Mo is joining us from MK Career Solutions. Do you want to just give us a quick insight on MK Career Solutions, Mo?
So, MK Career Solutions is a venture aimed at supporting people with all aspects of employment, CV support, CV writing, LinkedIn support, creating LinkedIn profiles, Indeed profiles, etc., and job interviews. Everything basically that takes one person from a job vacancy to a job offer, as you nicely coined it in our last conversation.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Sounds good. So we are going to be covering some valuable insights on LinkedIn. Do you want to just run through it? We'll talk about the importance of LinkedIn. I think a lot of people are familiar with LinkedIn, and for those of you who aren't, I'd highly recommend that you get on LinkedIn. Don't get too caught up in trying to perfect a profile. We'll cover on aspects where we can improve and tweak a profile, but certainly get on it. And today we're gonna focus on some aspects on how we can communicate on LinkedIn to make contacts and grow our network. How we can improve our interview skills via LinkedIn, and what it takes to effectively message people. So, Mo, what have you got to share with our viewers today?
I think LinkedIn is a tremendously underutilized platform. I think most people see LinkedIn as a resource simply to apply for jobs as they would on other job boards, but LinkedIn is a lot more than that. I think LinkedIn is a platform for networking. It's a chance to explore not only jobs and job industry that you're currently in, but other industries at whole, and even to help you in the process of, as you mentioned, support for interviews or finding new opportunities that you may previously not have known would have existed. I mean, in essence, the starting point of LinkedIn is a profile, which effectively is just an electronic version of your CV. But that is the platform which you can use to promote yourself and start making connections and start reaching out to other people and seeing the world of opportunity that's out there in the world of employment.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. I think people sort of restrict themselves or limit themselves by just having a profile and not really utilizing the opportunities that comes with LinkedIn. So that's some of the stuff we're gonna talk about today. So I believe you've got a story about how it's really helped you more. So do you want to share with our viewers on that?
Yeah, massively. I mean, LinkedIn has helped me tremendously throughout the years. I mean, my journey after I came out of university and looking for work was to go into medical sales. That was the career that I was set on. I didn't really want to consider any opportunities because I found that was my passion and that's where I could succeed. But for someone coming into medical sales with no prior sales experience, such as myself, it was a very, very difficult task. And I went through the process of applying for jobs, the conventional route through CVs, through sending CVs through job agencies. And I wasn't really having much luck, but through LinkedIn, I was able to network with people and increase my experiences. I mean, it seemed like a very nervous thing for me to do initially, to simply go out on LinkedIn and simply message people who I'd never had any contact with before. It seems against many social media principles, but I thought if I want to really get ahead in this industry, I don't have any real life experience. But the next best thing that I can do is reach out to people who are experienced in the industry and learn from them. And at least I can absorb all of their experiences, learn from what went well for them, what didn't go well from them. And then maybe when I have interviews, I have a more rounded technique. At least I can say I've done research in the industry. And it helped me massively. And it took a while because first I used to reach out to people, but my messages were quite generic, were quite broad, and people were responding. I mean, it took about 20 or 30 messages sent out to people before I realized, hang on, this technique isn't working. Why isn't anyone responding to me? And I start to adapt my approach. And instead of just saying, I'm looking for a job, can I come out with you, get some experience? I started to tailor my messages a bit differently. So for example, having it saying, I'd really like to learn more about your industry. You're clearly quite experienced. Is there any chance that we could potentially have a chat over the phone? And again, responses, it was never 100% hit rate, but I'd say 1 in every 6 or 7 people at least had the decency to respond to me. And 1 every 10 people actually had the decency to say, you know what, I'll have a chat with you on the phone. And it was great. It was fantastic in the sense that I was able to, after I got my technique in writing messages out there, I got to learn from so many different people in the industry. And it helped me tremendously in terms of interview technique, in terms of learning more about the type of jobs in medical sales I wanted, and effectively in the end helped me to find a job. So in that respect, it was a fantastic resource for networking.
Okay, so there's so many valuable things you pointed out there. A, you've got that opportunity to contact people without having to move from point A to B, or sort of travel and see places and knock on people's door. You've got this opportunity to just contact people directly into their inbox. So that's one of the main things. And the other thing is you get to do research on the individuals, which I'm sure you've done. You can visit their profiles and see what their interests are, see what their career journey has been so far. So that gives you a golden opportunity. You always get to see their CV in a way, isn't it? You get to see how many years they've got experience in a certain field, what their journey has been, what their insights are, what their experience are. You get to see that. And the other thing you mentioned is you get a feel for what's out there in terms of industry knowledge. So if there's a certain industry, in your case, it was medical sales. With LinkedIn, you used it to just do your research on the type of companies, names, where they're based, what type of positions, what type of roles are there, what type of work is involved, and who are the key contacts.
Absolutely, that's right. And especially for someone with limited experience in an industry that they want to go into, such as myself, as like an entry-level candidate, you can prepare as much as you want for the competency style questions about, what skills do you have, talk about scenario when you've done this, when you've done that. But one thing that only experience teaches you is the technical competencies of the role. And as someone who's an entry level, you're never going to be able to learn that because you haven't done the job. However, the next best thing is if you can speak to people who've been in the industry and been doing the job for years, they can point out things to you that they've learned from experience and you can start to take on. And again, it never compensates for experience, but it gives you a unique insight from speaking to people that can help you in learning more about the job, and also about telling your skills when it comes to interviews, to making sure that you have the best chance of getting the job and proving that you're the right person for the job.
Yeah, that's so valuable right there, Mo, because it gives you the platform to just connect with people, do your background research, do your reading. But then if you've connected with people in the right way, if you message with them in the right way, and they're then happy to spend some time with you, give over a phone call, maybe even to meet up, and then you can start then going into some of the finer details of that particular industry, about that company or that position, what sort of work is involved, what do I need to look out for, what are the challenges. You can really get into those kind of things, and you just familiarize yourself with the terminology, the way the industry works, what's expected, what is not expected, what to do, what not to do. It just gives you all that insight that you are not able to do just by looking at the description advertised on the job vacancy, because that sort of content, it's just not there. No one puts that up on a website. It just it gives you that extra edge when it comes to getting your interviews. You've gone that extra mile to get valuable insight on the industry, about all these nuanced things that are going on that you can then use in your conversations that you have with your recruiters or human resources, or potentially the people you're going to work with when you do go for interviews.
No, absolutely, you're 100% right. And you can also take this to one level further as well, which I found when it comes to interview technique. So for example, the first stage we talked about with networking on LinkedIn is simply just messaging out to random people from random companies in your industry to learn more about the role. However, once you have, say, for example, an interview in place, you can use this to your advantage also. So instead of just targeting random people in industry, you could possibly reach out to find specific people within the company that you're working for. And it's something that I've used to great effect many a time, actually. So for example, for a specific company that had a role, I know the rough geography of the area that I'm covering, and I can go onto LinkedIn and find people who work within that team. And I can just reach out to them and say, hey, so-and-so, I've got an interview coming up next week. I'm really keen on the role, but I'd love to hear more about your specifics about the team and your experiences, maybe give me some insights. And having that chat with them, if they respond to you, is invaluable, because they not only give you technical insights into the job as a whole, they can give you specific nuances about what that particular manager is looking for. Because as we know, managers have different styles. Some look are more straight to the point, facts and figures. Some are more sociable, more about the kind of personality and social element of it. And being able to kind of adapt your approach to see what the manager is looking for is extremely important. And also, if you manage to do that for a few people, when you actually get to the interview, you can actually say to the manager, you know what, as part of my research of this role, I not only looked up on your website and the resource to learn more about the company and Jewel, I actually took the time to speak to people from your team and the company. So I know exactly more about the job. And in fact, it's convinced me that this is the company to work for. And I've found on occasion that the manager is actually quite impressed because it's not something that everyone would think about doing.
Yeah. So you just hit two birds with one stone there. So when you do get an opportunity to contact people from an organization you've got an interview for, you can then talk to those people, get a valuable insight on what's going on in the company, what's expected, what type of role is involved, what the challenges are. You get a good insight of what's going on, but also you can then mention that at the job interview and say, look, as part of my research, I actually spoke with some of your colleagues just to get a bit more information and insight as to what's what sort of expectations you'd have as a manager, or what type of work is really involved in this process. So I think that's massively valuable, and that's just going to give you a massive competitive edge when it comes to job interview, because at companies they love it when you have the attitude of, I'm someone, okay, or this guy is someone who goes out of their way to get things done. As soon as they sense that, they can smell it, and as soon as they sense that, you've stood out massively, because when you come to interview stages, you are competing with someone who's also qualified for that stage. So in that case, you kind of like on an even platform. They probably like their CV and cover letter, and they like your CV and cover letter, but what are you going to do to make you stand out? And it's things like this. You spend a little bit of time messaging a few people, spend some time, a few conversations, make some notes, and you've got some extra insight that your competitor won't have, or the other candidate you're competing with will not have. So that's just highly valuable. So you mentioned about sending messages more. So what is your, what have you learned? You mentioned that you tried out a few things, it didn't work. So would you say there's a certain number that you recommend that, of applicants try? And then, what is the better way to structure a message via LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm. I would say the best way to structure a message is to send, first of all, a new person a connection request, and you can add a note with that. And in the note, just give a brief overview of what your intentions are. Just say, thank you for looking at the message. I'm new to the industry, for example, and I'd love to learn more about your role. It'd be great to have a chat with you at some point that is convenient for you, or something along those lines. With the LinkedIn note function with someone who's a new contact, I think you are limited to the amount of characters you can use, so you have to keep this very concise. But generally, that sort of message works very well. If we're talking about numbers, I would say 1 in every 6 or 7 messages will be responded with will be met with some sort of response. For example, a response to the message. However, a lot of those people are busy. So if you want to take that further in the sense of having a phone conversation with them, I'd say 1 in 10 of the people will be willing to do so. But a simple message, first of all, as mentioned, and send them to them. If they accept the request, but perhaps don't respond to you afterwards, you could maybe wait a few days and then send a follow-up message saying, thank you now for connecting with me. Further to my message, I'd really like to have a chat with you. Let me know if there's a time that is best suited to you, for example. And the people who aren't busy will respond to you. Obviously, if they don't, then they're clearly busy and there's no point in pushing any further. But I think that little bit of persistence is quite nice. Obviously, you don't want to be hassling and hounding people all the time, because then it'll get a bit creepy and you may put people off. But to a basic degree, just pushing a bit shows that you're keen, you're committed. And more often than not, I think it appeals to the person who you've sent the message to as well. It's nice, obviously, to feel appreciated and valued. And it's nice that someone has reached out to you personally to learn more about what you do. That feeling that it gives people about the value of their job do is very, very important. And, people are nice. People like to give you the time of day if they can afford the time. So it's very, very valuable.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. So you get that opportunity just by a little bit of a numbers game. Once you've worded it right, they're happy to spend that time to share some valuable insight. Okay, brilliant. Right. Thank you very much, Mo, for joining us today from MK Career Solutions. What I'll do is I will leave a link to Mo's Facebook page, and if you got, you know, if you're interested in having a look at Mo's Facebook page, have a look there and see what he's offering. He's offering some amazing services to clients. So if you wanted more help with CV writing and prepping up for job interviews, or even you know, prepping up with your LinkedIn profile and how to connect with people, Mo's got fantastic, a lot more insight into this, these things that you can do to help you land that job that you always wanted. So I'll leave that link on the description below. Thank you for joining us, Mo. I'll see you soon on another video.
Thank you, Chira. Thank you for having me, and see you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.